Today we geek out about Vertium. Hey guys, what's going on? This is Lee from Geek City, USA here, and today we are going to talk about a game called Vertium. Now, Vertium is put out by Caper Games, and it's currently on Kickstarter right now, and it's a game for 1 to 4 players, which is kind of space opera themed sci-fi style game, and where you're trying to colonize planets, and once you colonize these planets and gather the Vertium, you go head to head against your opponent and see who can be the last one standing. So there's a lot of dynamics to this game, so I'm going to take you over here, show you how to play, and we'll come back and I'll give you my thoughts on the game. All right, now this is Vertium set up for a 3-player game. So when you set it up, in this case for 3 players, you have 7 planets out, and then you're going to put the orange moons, and they are going to be face down. And then you're going to randomly pick 3 planets, and you're going to place, these are blue moons that are currently flipped face down. And those will have a special effect at the end of the colonization phase. So also let me start by saying too that this is not only a prototype copy of the game, but this is a print and play prototype copy of the game that I put together. So these are actually just card mounted, and I've pillaged all of these different pieces. These are Carcassonne meeples. I also have different cubes from different games, and then this is what I'm using for the Vertium. Again, cubes from a different game. So keep that in mind when you're looking at this, that this is just a quick print and play put together for the sake of demoing and reviewing the game. All right, also during setup, each colony is going to take 16 colonization tokens, each in 4 of each of the colors. And again, these are cubes. When the game actually comes out, I believe they will be tokens that will they will fit on these areas here on the planets. You're going to deal out 6 cards to each of the players, and the colors of these will match the different colonization types, the different token types. Each player will also get 1 of each of the skirmish cards that are going to be used during the second phase, phase 2, the skirmish phase. And then finally you have these secret objective cards. Now what these are is each one references one of the planets on the board. And these are passed out secretly, and each player will have their own. Each one's going to be for a different planet. And if they capture that planet at the end of the colonization phase, they'll get 3 victory points. So we'll go ahead and just randomly give one to each of these, each of my 3 players here. Then you can put what's left back in the box. And now you are ready to start phase 1. Now, for phase 1, each of the factions are actually competing with each other to establish a colony on the planets. And the way these planets are colonized is if they have 1 of each colonization token type on the planet, the last person to put the final colonization token type on that planet would claim that planet, and they become the ones who have colonized it. And you play a colonization token when you have 3 of a card type. So for example, if I look at player 1's cards, you see I have 3 yellow cards. I could play these 3 cards, and then I could take a yellow colonization token, in this case I'm using cubes, and I could put it on any planet that doesn't already have this yellow token on it. Now these orange moons, the numbers on them actually matter. So the number on the orange moons is how much Vertium is placed onto the planet after it's colonized. And then once it's colonized, on your turn, if you colonize a planet, every turn the moon is going to move to the next dot. Or in the cases of the smaller numbers, the 2s and 3s, they actually move 2 dots each turn. And every time it completes a full cycle, you're going to put another Vertium on the planet. So although the big numbers, you get more Vertium up front, if you can grab one of these smaller numbers earlier on, you can do more rotations and ideally add more Vertium as the game goes. So again, as player 1, I'll look at the cards here, and I can set this aside. I know what my secret objective is. And then I'm going to draw one of the 2 cards on the dashboards. Now, if these 2 cards are ever the same, you discard one of them and replace it. You always want these 2 cards to be different. So as player 1, what I'll do is I'll say, okay, I want green because I already have 2 blues and I already have 3 yellows. So I'll do this, and then if you ever have 3 of a kind, you have to play it. So if you have 3 of a kind twice, you're only going to play 1. So I'll play these 3 yellow cards, and I'll just discard them, and then I'll take one of the yellow discs, in this case cubes, and I'm going to place it on a planet. What I'll do is I will place it on the planet that's my secret objective. Then you will refill this area here. and continue on to the next player. If you ever at any point have fewer than 4 cards in your hand, you can draw up to 4 cards. You would just draw from the top of this deck here. So now I can go on to player 2, and we'll look here and we'll say, okay, their secret objective is that planet, which is right there in the center, and it's got a 2. And we'll look at the cards here. And this player has a pretty good mix, but we can take a blue card and colonize right away. So we will draw this. That gives us 3 of the blues. Discard them, and player 2 can place a colonization token, and we'll place it on the planet that is our secret objective. We will refresh this here. And now we will go on to player 3. And here's player 3's secret objective, which is that planet right down there. And we can look at the hand here, and we have 2 blues, so let's draw another one of these here. We will discard that, and we'll place a colonization token. But we're going to place this on this planet over here. That ends player 3's turn, and we will refill the dashboard. Now, if at any point after selecting a card from the dashboard you don't have 3 of a kind, you would pass your turn and it would be the next turn. However, there are some special cards. They're called disaster cards. And if you don't have 3 of a kind, you may play one of these instead. And I'll go over these real quick with you. First, we have the Meltdown disaster card. And if you play this card, a player of your choice has to discard all energy cards from their hand. And the energy cards are the cards that match this color, so the red cards. Second, we have the Leak card. Now, if you play this card, you pick one planet and you can remove the water colonization cube from that planet. So if I were to play this card, I could go ahead and take this off of the planet that I choose. Next, we have the Mind Blast card. Now, what this does is if you play this card, the next 2 players skip their turn. Or in the case of a 2-player game, your opponent misses 2 turns in a row. And when they miss a turn, if a planet is colonized, the moon will not continue to rotate that turn. Next, we have the Virus card. And if you play this, you'll remove all of the green agri colonization tokens from any uncolonized planets. So if all of these planets, for example, were uncolonized and they all had green tokens on it, the green tokens would come off. If there were a few planets that were colonized, those would not lose their green tokens, but any of the ones that are uncolonized would. Next, we have the Raider card, and this is the last of the disaster cards. And if you play this card, you can steal 1 card from another player's hand blindly, and then you would add it to your hand. And if it gives you a match of 3, you can play it immediately. And then if it makes if it makes your opponent's hand fall below 4 cards, they can draw up at this point. Or if you already own a planet, you can steal a Vertium from a faction that has more than you do in total. And you would just take it from one of their colonized planets and place it on one of your colonized planets. So now I'm going to fast forward a little bit, and we are going to show what it looks like when some planets are colonized. All right, now this is what it looks like if there are a number of planets colonized. So you see here, all the planets are colonized with the exception of this one, and we'll just say it's the yellow player's turn right now. And if you look, they all have the green Vertium cubes. In some cases, like this planet here has 4. That's because this moon has cycled around a couple of times, adding extra Vertium. So now we'll take the yellow player's turn as though this were the last turn of the game. We'll look here, and they have a couple of red cards and a green card. They need a green to colonize this. So we'll go ahead and draw this one from the dashboard. And look, we can play these 3 cards. We'll discard those. We can then play a green resource or colonization tile, and then we can go ahead and colonize that. And we would put these 2 on. Now also I should add, at the start of the yellow player's turn, any planets that they control, the moon would continue to cycle. So in this case, let's say we haven't colonized this just yet. So it's the yellow player's turn. This moon is right here, right? So okay, yellow player's turn. This would move. Hey, look, we get to add a Vertium here. And now it's my turn. I play my 3 cards, and then I colonize this and put those on. And then boom, the colonization phase is over. So once the colonization phase ends, after the very last planet is colonized, you're going to get rid of all the cards. You don't need the playing cards any longer. And there's going to be no more orbiting for the orange moons. And we will flip over the blue moons and see what they do. So we'll go ahead and flip each of these. And there are 3 different types, and hey, look at that. Go figure, there are 3 different types that were flipped. So we'll go through and we'll look at each one. Now, we'll start with this one right here. You see this is just kind of a more standard blue moon. This is a harvest moon, and this means that that planet is going to gain 1 Vertium. And you might say, hey, obviously I want to capture a moon or colonize a planet with a blue moon. That's maybe not necessarily the case, because there's a lot of risk reward, because now we're going to look at this one. And this dark one here is the winter eclipse moon. And what this means is the moon's eclipse is bizarrely lasting for days, which means that half of that planet's Vertium gets lost in a blizzard. So in this case, they're only losing 1, which is no big deal. But let's say that this moon was over on this planet. You would end up losing 2 of the Vertium off there, because you're going to round down. And then finally, you have this moon right here. And this is the refuge moon. And what this does is it gives safety to the captain who actually owns this, or who has colonized this planet, in this case the yellow player, when it comes to phase 2 of the game. You can actually escape to this moon when you have no Vertium left, and basically it kind of saves your life. And we'll cover that when we cover phase 2 here coming up. So then at the end of phase 1, you're going to do final scoring, and you'll look at the secret objective cards, and you'll see, like in this case, this is the red player's secret objective. Did they capture this planet? No. If they did, that would be worth 3 points. And then you total the rest of the victory points. So for every Vertium that you have, you get 1 victory point. And for every planet that you colonize, you get 2 victory points. So in this case, the yellow player would get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So there would be 7 victory points for Vertium, and then 8, 9, 10, 11 for the colonization bonus. And that would end the colonization round. And at this point, if you wanted to stop without doing the battle portion of the game, you can stop here. However, if you're ready to do the battle portion, let's talk about that. So when you start phase 2, the conflict phase, you're going to organize the players by highest points. So whoever has the highest victory points from ending phase 1 is going to go first, and then the second highest goes second, and then the one with the least points goes third. And what you're going to do is you're going to attack. So when you do your attack, you're going to select one of your captains and pick any amount of the Vertium on a planet, and you can travel to a target planet. So let's say, for example, the red player had the highest victory points. So let's say that this red player here is going to travel to this planet and attack. And you have to leave at least 1 Vertium behind. So we will move 3 of red's Vertium. And then you go ahead and you put another captain just so you hold rank as far as what planets you have. Now each faction is going to have 3 skirmish dice. So we'll say that the red ones here belong to the red faction, and we'll use the blue ones right now for the yellow faction. And these are going to be custom dice with custom icons on them. However, for the sake of the print and play prototype here, there's kind of a chart as far as what each dice face equals. So you're going to roll your skirmish dice and battle for the planet until one of the factions has lost their Vertium and their captain. So you're going to keep going until there's only 1 person standing. So we'll start with the red player here. We'll go ahead and roll the 3 skirmish dice. We rolled 2 4s and a 3. And 3s and 4s are actually shields. So that would be the equivalent of if the dice had this icon on it, this green shield icon. So basically right now, the red player would be able to block 3 shots, 3 hits. So we'll go ahead and roll for the yellow player. So the yellow player will roll here, and they get a 1, 2, and a 5. So a 1 is a photon blast, and that is 1 hit. And the photon blast actually matches this icon here. That is what you would see on the dice. The number 2, as well as the number 5, are atomic beams, and that is the icon on the dice. If you can see, there we go. It's the yellow target. Now this is convenient for yellow because in order to hit a photon blast, the pink icon, 1 hit or 1 roll of that does 1 damage. However, with the atomic beams, the yellow one, which is the 2s and the 5s, that you need 2 to hit. So in this case, yellow has hit red twice, but red has 3 shields, so nobody would lose any Vertium at that point. Now you have these skirmish cards here with 1 of each dice face, which you can actually use per battle. So you have 3 cards that you can use during the entire duration of an individual battle. And then once you use them all, they're done for that battle. However, when you have another battle, you get these 3 cards back. And when you use these, you can only use 1 per roll. And this would change the face of one of the dice for you. So in this case, because red rolled 2 shields and they blocked both shots from yellow, red might want to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to switch one of mine to one of the photon blasts. So red can actually play their pink card, changing one of these to the number 1, which is a photon blast. So let's say that yellow chooses not to do anything about it. So right here we have these 2 hits from yellow are blocked by these shields. But then this one does a hit on yellow, so yellow would actually lose one of their Vertium. So now we have yellow with 1 Vertium and the captain, and red has 4 Vertium. So now let's roll again, and here would be red's roll. There's a 6, a 5, and a 2, and the 6 is the pink one, the photon blast. The 2 is an atomic beam, which you need 2 of, and however the 5 is a atomic beam as well. So this would be 2 hits by red. And then yellow can roll here, and yellow gets a 6 as well, which is a photon blast, a 5, which is an atomic beam. Look at that, the exact same. So they each would do 2 damage to each other. So currently right now, 2 damage from red would eliminate the Vertium and the captain. So the yellow player might want to say, change one of their dice, the photon blast, to a shield. And the shield is, say, a 3 and a 4. So they'll at least block 1 shot. So it would be 1 and 1. So the yellow player loses a Vertium, the red player loses a Vertium as well. Let's do the very last combat roll. We've got a 5 and a 2. This is a pretty common roll, it seems. So these are 2 atomic beams. You need 2 of them to hit. So there's 1 hit by red, and this 4 would be a shield. And then yellow rolls a 5, a 5, and a 6. So these 5s are 2 atomic beams, and this 6 is a photon blast. So right now, yellow is doing 2 damage to red, and yellow already used their shield, so they actually will not be able to block either of these shots from red. So yellow will be eliminated. But what red will do is red will go ahead and play this shield to flip this over to a shield, so that they'll only lose 1, because this will hit and will destroy this yellow captain. So this captain would return to the yellow board, and now red controls this planet. So next it would be the blue player's turn, and the blue player would do the same thing. They would pick a planet to attack, and they would choose an amount of Vertium to take with them, and then they would carry out the attack in the exact same way. And then finally, if yellow's left on the board after that, yellow would get to do the same. And you continue this until there's only 1 set of captains standing. Now, one thing to note, if you recall here, yellow was here. Yellow could have sent their captain back to this refuge moon, and then that would have saved that captain's life. But he would have had to do that before the final dice roll that eliminated him in our example here. And let's say that we actually did that, so what yellow could do is yellow could then, this guy could attack another planet and take Vertium from one of the planets that they already have. So you could take 2 Vertium if you wanted to and come back and attack this one, or go and attack this one, or however you want to do it. And then after everybody takes a round of combat, you then total up what the current score is, just like you did before. If you control a planet, it's worth 2 victory points, and if you have a Vertium, it's 1 victory point per Vertium, and then whoever's the highest gets to go first again in another round of combat. And again, you continue on until you can't attack any longer. And then when you do your final scoring, now there may be an example where at the end of the game, everybody's out of Vertium, and there might be a couple of different captains on planets, but you just don't have the amount of Vertium to attack. But that's fine. You would just go through and total your score, and again, it would be 1 Vertium is 1 victory point, and control of a planet is worth 2 victory points. And whichever faction has the most victory points wins the game. Now there's also a variant to Phase 2 for American style battling that you can check out on your own. The rule book is posted. And there's also an expansion, actually a couple of expansions, and a single player version of the game that you can feel free to check out. But that right there is a high level overview on how to play Vertium. Now I'm going to take it back up top and I'll share with you my thoughts on this game. All right, that was Vertium. So first of all, let me say that this was a prototype copy of the game, and not only was it a prototype, but it was a print and play of the game. So you cannot judge the components of the game based on what I put together, because it was quick inkjet printing and gluing to cardboard and so forth. So definitely can't comment on the final component quality. However, I can say that as far as the visual aspects of the game, is it's quite stunning the way all of the planets are laid out. It really can fill as much of the table as you want it to if you spread out, or if you want to kind of contain it a little more, you can bring it in. So visually, the game is very, very appealing. The art on the cards was also very purposeful. You could tell at a glance, obviously, they're full color, so it's quick to glance, you know what it is. As well as the skirmish cards are also easy to tell which is which just by a quick glance of it. So as far as the presentation of the game, I think the game is going to look very, very nice. So on to the gameplay of the game. Now there are two phases to the game. There's phase 1, which is the colonization phase, and phase 2, which is the skirmish phase. Let's talk about the colonization phase first. So the gameplay is quite simple. You're going to draw a card. If you get 3 of a kind, you can play it, and then you can choose to put your resource or the colonization token on any of the planets that you wish. And there's a good bit of strategy here, because you're not only trying to get your secret objective planet, but you might be trying to get a planet with a high number of Vertium. If it's early enough in the game, you might want to get a low number to try to get that moon to spin around a bunch of times and gather more Vertium. And there's a good amount of player interaction as well, because you also have the disaster cards. So there is a good mix of stuff going on here. The colonization phase actually had quite an abstract feel, like abstracty and Euro at the same time, whereas you're gathering these cards or these resources to try to claim areas of the planets. And I think that is appealing regardless of whether you like sci-fi or not. In phase 2, the skirmish mode, you are able to obviously go out with your Vertium almost in a way kind of like you would in Risk, whereas you could take as many guys as you want as long as you leave one behind to try to capture a territory. And it works very, very well. It's a smooth gameplay. You have a little bit of luck with the dice rolls, and you can mitigate that with the card play. And there's a strategy of when you play the cards, and again, it works out quite well. Now for the audience of the game, I think it's easy enough to pick up that it's accessible by all sorts of gamers. So you can take your casual gamer friends or people that don't like heavy games, and they will absolutely be able to enjoy this game, because it's light, it's easy to pick up, and it's a fun concept even if you're not a fan of the sci-fi theme. And I think there's also enough strategy and appeal to people who are maybe heavier gamers or hardcore gamers, in that the colonization phase is thinky enough that keeps you engaged and entertained. And then the skirmish mode is a lot of fun, and it's a very satisfying feel, because you kind of go for broke. You might gamble and where you want to go, and there's a lot of tactics that you can use, and it overall is a lot of fun with the way it all boils out. So what is the replayability factor of this game? Well, when you build out your board, there's randomness as far as what orange moons go where, what blue moons you draw, where they're laid out. It's up to you what your secret objective cards are. So I think there's a fair amount of replay based on the way the board will build as it is. But not just that, I think that the gameplay lends itself to being accessible and to being fun, and the game doesn't overstay its welcome. It's a fun game that's not too long, and I think based upon that and how nice it looks on the board, I think it's something that you would play over and over again. So all in all, this is a game that has made its way to the table a number of times. This is a game that I've played with the guys a lot, and we really enjoy it. We like obviously the colonization phase is fun, and we love to take that aspect of the last man standing for the skirmish mode, but it's also a game that's light enough that my wife and my family, my oldest son, we've been able to play a number of times, and we've all really enjoyed it as well. Based on that alone, I would suggest that if the gameplay looks interesting to you and you're not a fan of sci-fi games, I would still check this game out. And if you like sci-fi themed games and you're looking for something that plays fairly quick and it's light and it's fun and there's a good puzzly aspect with the way you're playing the other players as well as the strategy of the game, I would definitely recommend you check this out. We have really enjoyed it. All right, guys, that's it. This is Lee from Geek City, USA. Thanks for hanging out with us. Definitely like and comment down below. I'd love to interact with you guys. And check us out on social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Love to get to interact with you guys and just chit-chat back and forth with you. So once again, thanks for hanging out. We'll see you next time.